Hi, everyone. This is Patrick Donahoe. Welcome to the Well Standard podcast. We are on episode 15 in season 2 of the year 2018, where our topic is liberty. And liberty, in my interpretation and in the context of the show, is the pursuit of financial freedom. Now, we are one episode away from the end of season 2. And we will get into the final 4 months of the year, where the topic will be property and the use of property as it pertains to your success and wealth building efforts. And it's not just property such as real estate. There are many other facets to the idea of property. I can't wait for you guys to listen in on some of the guests we have in store. Now, first, before I get into the guest I have today, who you're going to love. She has a tremendous amount of energy and excitement and passion about what she does. Before we get into that, I wanted to just say thank you for all of your support and efforts with regards to the book that was just released, The Heads I Win, Tails You Lose, Financial Strategy to Reignite the American Dream. We are just a little over a month since the book has been released, and we've hit bestseller status on Amazon in over half a dozen topics. Really, I couldn't have done it without you. Thank you guys so much for the support. If you haven't picked up the book yet, go head over to Amazon. It's available in Kindle as well as paperback and hardcover. But let me just kind of get into an introduction of Melinda Emerson, who's my guest today. This year's podcast is really revolving around the book and the themes that I outlaid in the book describing the whole idea of the American dream. And, I really believe that you can break down all principles and fundamentals of success into those 3 topics: life, liberty, and property. Life, obviously, is being aware that you are your greatest asset, you're your greatest investment as well. It's where the biggest return is going to come from. And it's also the determining factor in the success of your business or your investments. And, ultimately, I'd also say that despite your passive income, your business success, your bank account balance, that really human beings seek to provide meaningful value to others. And if that is not something that is integrated into your daily efforts, regardless of your success, I do think that people will not ultimately find a comprehensive or holistic fulfillment. And so the idea is recognizing that you are your greatest asset, and that ultimately focus on you is going to be the best for others, whether that's your immediate family or whether it's your business or whether it's your colleagues or your community. But ultimately, it is really seeking the best ways in which you can create value for others. And that is what reciprocates in not just financial remuneration, but it also reciprocates in a whole host of other benefits. And then the second, obviously, is liberty, which we're discussing this season. Liberty is the pursuit of freedom. And I think that does have to do with your investments, and it has to do with monetary issues. But as I said before, it's also pursuing something that you enjoy doing. And the discovery of where you have been blessed or trained or given abilities to really provide ultimate value for others, I think is a lifelong discovery. But when that is discovered, when that is honed in on and translated into some sort of service for others, I believe that's where the greatest wealth and greatest fulfillment is going to come from. Now, the idea of Melinda Emerson and specifically her most recent book, which is Fix Your Business, is that back in 2010, she wrote a book on leaving your employer and starting your own business. And oftentimes, when it pertains to an individual in a professional environment, in a employee or employer-based environment where they have a job, they work for a boss, there could be this dynamic that is really pushing a person away and not really providing that fulfillment that they're seeking. And so one of the choices they have is not necessarily to move to another company or another environment, but to go out on their own. Now, Melinda discovered, and I think a number of people have discovered this as well, which is when you become self-employed, I would say for the first time, the S quadrant of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant, the S quadrant, a good definition is you own a job. And you could also say that it kind of owns you. And so the advice that Melinda was giving for individuals to go out and pursue their passion that they had control over came with some issues. And so the response of her readers, her students over the years was, here are all the, I'm out on my own. Here are all the challenges that I have. I'm working too many hours. I'm not making more money. I'm bringing in more money, but a lot more money is going out. So Melinda took a lot of time and researched a simple way, a simple formula to essentially fix a business or create an infrastructure, a successful infrastructure for the passion that you have in relation to the service you want to provide for others. So I'm excited for you to meet her. She also has a forthcoming study guide or workbook, as well as a workshop she's putting on in, I believe, Florida at the beginning of 2019. But check her out. Check out her website. It's succeedasyourownboss.com, and it's an honor to welcome her. And I hope you enjoyed the interview as much as I did. So please welcome Melinda Emerson.
Welcome to the 2018 seasons of the Wealth Standard Podcast, celebrating life, liberty, and property. You are listening to Liberty, Season 2.
Okay, my guest is Melinda Emerson, and we kind of dove right into a conversation about business, about what you do in your new book. And we forgot to press record. So we're pressing record now. We'll probably have to repeat a few things. But first off, Melinda, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here.
So let's get into your new book. This is your third book, and you have quite a bit of momentum behind it. There it is, if you're watching on video. And you also have a lot more coming down the pipe in regards to an event that you're putting on early 2019, as well as a workbook. But first off, let's just kind of get into business. I mean, this is the third book you've written. What was it about this topic that compelled you to actually want to write another book?
Well, honestly, it was because of my first two books. So my first book, Become Your Own Boss in 12 Months, was released in early 2010. And the second edition of that book was actually released in 2015. And, so for the last 8-9 years, I've been sort of the queen of startup, like how to start, how to transition, how to get free from the corporate, slavery, all this stuff. But over the years, my business owners that I helped get into business some of them were calling me, some of them were emailing me, some of them were leaving me voicemails, some of them were sending me open messages on Twitter. Small Biz Lady, help me, right? And I was like, help you how? Like how can I help individual entrepreneurs short of doing interviews like this, writing over 5,000 articles on how to start and grow a successful small business, doing my live weekly chat on Twitter every single Wednesday night on Small Biz Chat, answering people's small business questions live for years, right? Like 9-something years I've been doing that every Wednesday night on Twitter. And I was like, how can I figure out how to do more, how to give more? And what I realized was that there was just such a common theme in people's issues, and it was their businesses were stressing them out.
They're ruling their life.
Yeah, they had a business that they hated as much as that crazy job they used to go to every day. Matter of fact, they hated this thing worse. And then, unfortunately, their whole entire financial, is all tied up into it. There's a lien against the house for the loan they got. The wife quit the job, so now the both of them the whole family's whole income is coming out of this business that they now hate. And for me, I was like, okay, I got to help everybody, but I first had to help myself. Excuse me.
You're fine.
The first thing I had to do was figure this stuff out for myself. And I did 10 years ago. I figured out, okay, there is a right and a wrong way to run a business. Mm-hmm. And just because you bake great cakes doesn't mean you know anything about running a bakery. And so what I wanted to do was really walk existing business owners through how to smooth out the bumps in the road. Because what I found, the thing that I noticed is that there were 12 things that can trip up anybody in business. And so my book, Fix Your Business, is really based on the 12 P's of running a successful business. So each chapter of my book is another P word. So the first P is preparation. And the reason why the first P is preparation is because I don't believe people don't know what's wrong with their business. I believe they haven't made a decision to fix it. Mm-hmm. So when I say preparation, I'm saying, hey, do not keep driving around in a car that you hear rattling, and then all of a sudden you come out and you put the key in the ignition and Bessie won't start. And you be like, dang,
it's the nag, right? It's that nagging thing where it's not painful enough to actually do something about it, but it's kind of like, how a plane course corrects when it takes off based on the environment that it's in. Right? If the course correction, even the smallest one, isn't changed, it compounds out of control, right? Or off course.
Exactly. It's like letting that toxic employee stay because you don't want to go through the conflict of firing them and the hassle to replace them.
Yep.
Or it's like that payroll company that is overcharging you, but the harassment to cancel and switch and go to another one, you'd rather keep overpaying people that give you bad service.
Or whatever other, whatever service that you use, it's outside. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. It's like, so what's wrong. You need to hire somebody. You're falling in the bed every night. You think you're a superwoman, like nobody can do it like you can. But let me tell you something. You're the CEO of a company. You should never spend your time doing $20 an hour work. Nope. Ever. And if you're doing that, you're paying yourself $220 an hour to do it. So think about that. So these are the things that I was just like, I was tired of getting these emails, of getting these voicemails, of getting these DMs. Help us. Well, now I'm helping you because now I've laid it out. So the first P is preparation. The second P is purpose. And the reason why the second P is purpose is because I believe purpose is a perfect soup of your vision, your mission, and your passion. See, sometimes people get caught up in passion. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you something. If your passion don't have a profit center, it is an expensive hobby. So we don't start with passion. Mm-hmm. We start with vision. What is it you want your business to be when you grow up? For me, I wanted to be America's #1 small business expert. But let me hit you with what my mission is. My mission is to end small business failure. Now, that's a big mission. And everybody's mission should be big because your mission should be something you're always striving for. Mm-hmm. That's what it's got to be. But your passion is important. I love entrepreneurs. I want you to win. That's why I do what I do. That's why I'm the small biz lady. I don't even know what else I would do if I wasn't a small biz lady, right? I'd probably be somebody's favorite professor in business school. But anyway, no, my point is that it's really about those three things together, and they come together and create your purpose. But your purpose is really your why story. Mm-hmm. And sometimes when you've been in business for a while, you got to check yourself and say, why should I still be running this business? Mm-hmm. Not why did I start it, but why should you still be running it? Because maybe what you need to do is go back to corporate America and get you a job. Or maybe what you need to do is blow it up and start all over again. But you need to get clear about your why. Because if you're just doing it for the money, your heart ain't in it. And it's too hard to just be doing something. You do anything for money. That cannot be your sole motivator in business. Now,
so what would you say? Because I know what the topics that you're hitting on are really close and important to me. And I think oftentimes it's one of those check boxes as far as creating a mission statement and a vision statement and your values. If you look at businesses that may start out that way, what are maybe some examples of those that started out on the right foot, but because of all of the chaos, it lost focus of its purpose, its mission. And maybe it wasn't necessarily the business leader or starter. It could have been the set of employees that they have. Like, what have you seen as a result of not having that as one of those focal points of the business?
Well, it's too easy to lose focus, right? If you don't have, like, one of the things that always drives me is my mission to end small business failure. That always drives me. That is my go, no go decision maker. And if you don't have something that is that clear, mm-hmm. you'll chase anything. Yeah. Right. And so it's really about getting super clear about what we're doing. Mm-hmm. What is the goal here? Mm-hmm. So every article I write, every video I prepare, every interview I give is about that mission. And so that's why it has to be so succinct and clear. The other thing about having a mission like that is that when you tell other people, they immediately get it. So when I told you my mission was to end small business failure, you were like, well, all right, small biz lady, I get it. Right. So that is the whole point of it. Got it. But it's not enough to have a purpose, right? You got to get you some people, because your hands can, you only got two. You need a bunch more. So you've got to figure out, who you need. Then you got to get the right people. Because sometimes what happens is we wait until we're up to our ears in alligators to hire somebody. And then we hire our cousin because our cousin just got laid off. Right. And no, what you need to do is give your cousin a check, not a job. Right. So you don't want to bring a new problem into your business. Yep. You need to actually have a hiring process. Mm-hmm. You need job descriptions. You need to look at multiple candidates so that you get the right person. Yeah. Well, big companies, that's something we can borrow from big companies, how they hire people. They really put people through paces and look at multiple candidates, and they don't hire in a hurry. Mm-mm. And so you don't want to do that in your business either. So you want to be thoughtful about who you need, and maybe even bring them on, if you can, 2 to 3 months before you critically need them, so that you can take the time to train them. Because the other thing we do as entrepreneurs, we hire people and then throw them the keys and say, good luck. Yep. That's what we do. We don't take the time to onboard.
We just assume that they know what to do.
Right. And if you haven't taken the time to train them to your expectation, trust me, they don't know. And so
one thing you hit there, train them is one thing, right? But I would say expectation is another, because you may know how to get to a certain expectation. They may know a better way. And so the expectation, I would say, becomes vital, so that you are basically mutually we have mutual understanding of what that outcome is that they're supposed to produce, right?
Absolutely. But it's really important that they know your way. You're not going to come in Burger King and tell the Burger King people how to make a hamburger, right? Yeah. So you need to make sure that they understand your way. Yeah. But not only that they understand your communication style. Mm-hmm. You don't want an employee that's texting you, telling you they're not going to be here today, when your preferred communication is email. Mm-hmm. So you have to make sure that everybody knows the right way to communicate with you, so that they get the response and acknowledgement that they want. Yeah. And then you really have to look at you. Sometimes if you're having high churn in a business, people don't leave jobs, they leave people. Mm-hmm. So you need to examine what it's like to work for you. Mm-hmm. Are you a nice boss? Are you a fair boss? Mm-hmm. Or are you the kind of boss where everybody knows what kind of day you have about how you're treating them? Matter of fact, does your family know what kind of day you have about how you treat them? You need to make sure that you're not letting the stress get to you to where you are a miserable puss everywhere you go, because nobody wants to be around that lady, right? Mm-hmm. So you need to make sure that you are doing things to relax, that you are doing things to get away from work. I love dancing. And on Tuesday nights, I don't care what's going on, I'm out of here. I'm going dancing. I go line dancing. I do cha-cha dancing. I do the bop. I do all kinds of things, because that is my stress relief from my crazy life. I do yoga, I do all kinds of stuff. So my point is that you need to find, as a business owner, your thing that works for you. Do you like going to the gym? You like going for walks? You like going for a bike ride? Whatever it is, but you have to step away from work and give yourself a chance to rest and regroup. And you never know how that kind of stuff will help you come up with a great new idea.
Well, and this is, again, going back to your HR points and how vital other people are. it comes down to, a level of teamwork and trust that you foster in order to do that. So what do you know, this is just kind of a side question on what we've been talking about, but what do you see as the most common way a leader, a business owner, small business owner loses the trust of their team? Because I believe that trust is vital so that you can go out and do these things without being, without micromanaging.
Well, I think lack of transparency is the number one way to lose the trust of your team. You can't hide in your office and try to come up with all the answers yourself. You got to engage your team no matter what the problem is, because when you start, walling yourself off and acting all secretive, you make people nervous and you make people think something bad is about to happen. So I believe in keeping it 100 with people. I believe even in sharing financials with people, because I think sometimes when you run a business and maybe somebody sees a big check go by their desk, they think you're rich and they're not. And so I am really big on saying, let me tell you what all the people I have to pay out of that check. Let me tell you that 30% of that check is going to taxes off the top. Let's start with that. And then let's talk about you and you and you and you and you. I have to pay all of these people and hopefully myself out of this check you saw. And by the way, this is the only check we're going to get from that client. Oh, you know what I mean? But sometimes people see a big number go by and all of a sudden, you're mistreating them. You're keeping all the money for yourself. It's like, oh, no, well, this is my company, but, you're my employee and I will fight to the death for you. And so, but I believe sometimes you have to break it down because everybody, thinks because you're a business owner that you're just rolling, so it's like you want to be clear with people about what's really going on, good or bad, and how that can affect them or how it does affect them.
Cool. Well, let's keep going. Let's keep going with some of your additional.
All right.
P's.
Well, P number 4 is profit, and it's not about what you make; it's about what you keep. So it is really, really important that you get clear about what your numbers are, how much it costs you, but also how much profit is in every sale. I think sometimes people focus on revenue. People always want to talk to me about gross revenue. Baby, I don't care about your gross revenue. I care about your net revenue. So, these are the kind of things you want to know. But then you also got to make sure that you're managing cash, that you have money rules. I don't pay invoices just because somebody gives me one. I pay invoices on the day I pay invoices, right? So that's another thing that you can do to manage your money. But then the other thing you want to do is make sure that you can take any form of money. I just signed on a new vendor to us the other day. And the only way I could pay them was if I mailed them a check or did an ACH wire to their company. And I thought, really? Like, you guys don't take any kind of electronic form of payment? Nothing. Okay, well, I'm going to mail you a check, and I guess you're going to wait for it. You know what I mean? Like, that kind of stuff is kind of super dumb, but I see stuff like that all the time. And so you want to make sure that you can take all forms of currency, digital payments, particularly those of you guys out here being in retail. Millennials want to swipe and pay. So you want to make sure that you can take any form of digital payments, and so that you're not aggravating paying customers who are trying to give you their money. Now, the next thing I want to talk to you about, once we look at your profit and we got you going with a profit account for your business, and a profit account is when you take 5 to 20% of every check aside for you. That's the profit account. That's not the operating account. And, that is how you make sure that you got some money at the end of the year if you do that in your business. And we started doing that 2.5 years ago in our business, and it has changed everything. Because, I don't get paid last. I get paid first. And you have to pay yourself first, just like you did back in the day when you had a paycheck. You got to do that in a business too.
So going back to profit, like is there aspects of that section of the book that gets into, an accounting team and the roles that they play and how to do reporting and how to create reporting processes and so forth?
Definitely. And one of the things that I talk about in the book is about how you should be using your accountant as a business advisor and not just calling an accountant at tax time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, look, you need to be talking to your accountant on a monthly, minimum quarterly basis so that you can plan and prepare and make sure your budget is up to date and all this kind of stuff. Very, 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 very important.
Got it.
Now, the next thing you want to think about once we look at profit is your processes, right? So if you're walking around with all the information on how your business runs in your head, that is a problem. You want to make sure that you document your routine processes. Also, that you document your signature processes, because that's actually going to create intellectual capital in your business. So it's real important. Plus, how are you going to train your employees that we talked about back in the people chapter if you don't have your routine processes documented? So document your processes. Now, the other thing I want you to do, once you document your processes, then I want you to look at your productivity, because I promise you there is an app or a piece of software that can save you time and money. The problem is there's so many apps and software out here that you have no idea which one to choose. So one of the things that we did with this book, if you go over to fixyourbusiness.com, I give you a recommendation of all of the software, services, everything that we use that I recommend as your business grows, what you need to be looking at, from CRM to email. All of that stuff is over there on.
So I'm going to go back to, because this is pretty fascinating, and you're going through some gems right now. But so the processes piece, I mean, you went over that really quick. I would say that is, that's a game changer, right? If you can have your processes down and talk about streamlining and efficiency. What do you do? Is that one of the sections where you establish documents associated with your intellectual property, like you were saying, where, whether it's an employee or a salesperson, right, is, essentially required to, set up certain onboarding documents where they can't necessarily compete, or they can't, take that intellectual property and use it somewhere else?
Intellectual property is just one slither of it. It's really about the stuff you do every day, every week, every month in your business that need to be documented, so that somebody, you're documenting things in your business so that you can build a business that one day you can sell or franchise. It's not, you just can't come in every day and wing it or see what mud is going to get slung in your face. And that's what
it's a platform concept. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's really about how, if you're planning to scale your business, you have to document how your business runs. How do you generate leads? How are leads followed up on? Who owns a relationship after, a sale? Does sales own it? Does customer service own it? Or do you as a business owner own it? Somebody better own it, because it's all about the upsell, right? Or the resale.
Repeat.
So that's the kind of stuff that you got to look at and document. But even stuff like, when is the handbook updated? When, how do we hire people?
And it sounds so like monotonous and mundane to do stuff like this, but it's like, these are the game-changing things that make or break a business. Seriously. It's
absolutely true. And so the other thing that you want to think about is, once you document all those things, then you got to look at the things that you do yourself too as the business owner. So it's not just about what your employees do, it's about what you do. And so you can figure out the things that you can change and grow and deal with differently. Are you spending a whole bunch of time doing payroll? Is there an app? Can you upload the latest stuff to the app and let the payroll run? Like, do you really need to take your time to be looking at timesheets? Like, why are you doing that? So again, so those are some of the things that you want to look at. But once you get past sort of like my first 6, which are sort of like the fundamental, sort of like foundational things of a business, then I want you to look at performance. And performance is all about measurement. Because it's one thing to see on your financial statements that you're losing money, but if you are really tracking stuff from a measurement standpoint, you'll know why. And so it's really important, because a lot of times what I find in businesses is that people aren't measuring anything. And we can start with basic stuff like, when's the last time you looked under the hood of your Google Analytics to find out what is actually driving traffic to your website? A lot of people out here doing 4 or 5 social media platforms. How about you find out which 2 are actually sending traffic to your site? But there's other stuff you can track. Like, how about your accounts receivable turnover ratio? In other words, how fast you get your money after you issue an invoice, right? So that's something else that you want to consider. The other thing you want to look at are things like, churn, cost per lead, cost per sale. There's just so many things you could be tracking and looking at that are really, really important, that are costing you time and costing you money. So That's what I mean, because at the end of the day, if you're doing marketing, you don't measure. The next time you drive down the street, just open the window and throw some money out, because that's essentially what you're doing. You're buying Facebook ads, you're not tracking. Why are you doing that? So you want to make sure that you are doing things that is going to draw people. You're going to draw information to you that you can use to run your business.
Well, it's another thing too, is especially if you have your specialists, your employees that are working in whatever capacity, right? And they're in charge of a marketing campaign, or they're in charge of, accounts receivable, or they're in charge of sales. Okay. This is where you're able to delegate a lot, and then really have a good accountability associated with performance, because you're mutually on the same page as far as, what is success and what isn't success. And that's why it's important. It's a measurement to kind of tell you, what the performance is. But I would say, just because something worked a year ago doesn't mean it's going to work this coming year. So it's also a good barometer to make sure that you're, flowing with just business, modern business practices, modern business success, et cetera.
Definitely. I mean, measurement is key, and you just need to be measuring everything. I mean, you certainly shouldn't be hiring any SEO company that isn't coming to you monthly with what they're doing and how they're doing it.
And how they've improved things. Yeah.
Don't let them talk over your head, and don't get caught up on likes or visits. You want to real information, because anybody can manipulate visits. So, that's what I'm saying about just looking at stuff. Sometimes we just kind of want to set it and forget it, and that doesn't work. You've got to really be looking at it. But
another thing too, so Melinda, let me try, because I had a team of like eight developers a few years ago, and they were the biggest expense that we had. And because I didn't understand what they did, the specifics of it, okay, it caught me off guard, and I paid some, pretty severe, a lot of tuition to learn some valuable lessons.
Sure.
And with them, it was as simple as what you're saying, is if you have a very standard process of understanding what they're doing, what it's costing you for them to do it, and the return that you're getting, that's all you really need.
Yeah. And I once had a finance person tell me that every employee you have, you should be making 2.5 times what you're paying them. So in the case of developers, I'm frightened to even know what you're paying them. But, some lessons get to be more expensive than others, but they're just lessons.
Yep.
We can't dwell on them, we can't live there. We got to keep it moving. So after we look at, how your business performs, the next thing I want you to look at is your products and services. And that is, I want you to look at where you're positioned in the marketplace right now, and figure out, how are you positioned to compete in the next 3 to 5 years from now?
Mm-hmm.
Do you got the hot Christmas toy, or do you have something that people are still going to need, or that people are still going to want? How are you going to stand on the marketplace? I mean, look, competition is global. It is not local. So you need to make sure that somebody on Amazon is not going to put you out of business, right? So you want to really be clear about your product roadmap, if you will, or what you need to be coming out with, and talk to your customers about what they need, so that you can anticipate their needs and get in front of them. So that's how you keep, your bigger, corporate customers, if you are a service-based business. If you're in retail, and you're in e-commerce, you got to watch what your value proposition is, because the race to the bottom is a race nobody wins. So you don't ever want to be caught out here competing on price, because that's a scary road. You want to be competing on, better, faster. You do not want to be competing on cheaper, right? So you want to make sure that whatever you're doing, your value proposition is high and easy to understand.
Yeah. Well, here's the other thing too, is what you're saying as far as how you've kind of laid out the foundation and the fundamentals. You got to product almost last. And I would say, if you really think about the entire business, the foundation and all the other elements that support the product, I would say are the most valuable. Now, without a product, right, they're not valuable.
Business, right.
But a product without those processes, you can also argue, is invaluable, because if you're losing money doing it, why do you do it in the first place? And so that's where
mess around and have a very expensive hobby.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the thing that's really, really scary. And so,
and you could pivot easily too. When you have everything else in check, if it's another product or even a different industry, you can pivot everything to that with the right, foundation and set of fundamentals.
Oh yeah, definitely. And once you look at your product, Then it's time to look at your presence, as in your brand presence online and offline. Because sometimes if you've been in business for a long time, maybe it's time for a new logo, or maybe it's time for a new color story, like to just kind of refresh and give your brand some new energy. Or sometimes it's time to just blow it up, start again, right? But the other thing you want to look at is old school stuff is coming back. You know, people get killed with emails. So guess what's coming back? Direct mail, right?
Direct mail.
Depending on what you sell, a well-done piece of direct mail could be the thing that could really boost your business right now.
Yeah.
Or, you know, certainly let's talk about social media for a minute, because, you know, people always want to talk about social media. But listen, social media is great, but email is where people are converting. Unless you're selling specific products that you can sell right off of Facebook or right off of Instagram, it's about email. It's about nurturing that relationship, building that trust relationship so that you can turn that relationship into commerce. And too often, people try to sell you too quick. Have you ever logged on to LinkedIn and then 2 seconds later, somebody emailed you their pitch and you were just like, wow, do I know you? Then that made me try to figure out how to unconnect from somebody on LinkedIn. You know, it's like, and I never do that. I'm connected to 10,000 people on LinkedIn. But if you pitch me the second I connect to you, I will unconnect from you because I don't like that. So, you know, so those are some of the things you want to do. So you, obviously content is still king, but you know, if you don't like to write, please don't torture yourself. You know, there's all kinds of other things you can do. Podcasting, like we're doing right now. You can do videos. How-to videos are the #1 search thing on YouTube, and YouTube is the #2 most searched site in the world. So think about different things you can do that would be of value, that would get you noticed by your target audience. You know, and then after we look at your presence, the next thing I want to look at is your prospects, and that is your sales process. Because listen to me, guys, the 3 things that kill a business more often than anything else, #1 is cash flow. Second is people. Third is lack of a sales process. If you're just winging it, hoping you bump into somebody that might need you, hoping somebody that bought something from you will think about calling you again, you are in trouble. You will be out of business soon. So you want to make sure that you have an organized sales process. And by the way, you also need to make sure you got somebody in your business selling other than you. If you're the only person in your business thinking about how your business makes money, you are in trouble. So you want to bring in a salesperson, and then you got to make sure you know how to manage a salesperson. So you might need to get some outside help so that you A, hire the right person, but B, that you figure out how you're going to compensate and keep this person motivated, and that you and that person is the owner. Y'all got to work as a team, like Batman and Robin, right? You know, so you got to make sure that you are mentoring your salesperson, that they know how to sell what you do, and you got to help them close business. And that's just part of it. Sales managers help their sales team close, and don't get mad if you still got to give them the commission, right? Because it's a sale. That's what we want. We want sales. So sales is critical. And then once we get you through your sales and really get your sales process clean, then it's time to finalize your new strategic plan. So planning is chapter 11. And I love it because I interviewed Tim Berry in this chapter. And Tim Berry, if you guys don't know who he is the father of business planning. He created Software Business Plan Pro, which is now called the Lean Plan. You know, they've got a great business, and he's written multiple books about how to write a great business plan. But I love him because he says planning never stops. And it's not about the plan, it's about the planning process. But the great thing about my book, Fix Your Business, is if you read my book and you do the homework at the end of every chapter, you're going to be happy when you get to chapter 11. Because I'm going to tell you, guess what? You already did all the hard homework to build your new strategic plan. It's right here in front of you if you look at the worksheets that I made you do throughout. And then the last chapter in my book is perseverance. And the reason why the last chapter is perseverance is because when you put out your shingle and you say you're open for business, you got to be able to take a hit. You got to stay strong enough, long enough to win. Because too often business owners get hit and they give up. They pack up their ball and their bat and they go home. Well, look, that's not how it works. Business is never going to come as fast as you want. That loan you applied for is never going to come through right on time, right? You're always going to have to be creative. You're going to have to keep in touch with your network, right? You're going to have to be a friend in order to have one. right? So don't just always make it all about you. Think about how you can be of service and be a part of the community, because that's when people will come stand up for you. That's when somebody will write you a $5,000 check because you needed it that day, because you're waiting on a check from somebody else, right? So that's the kind of stuff that is going to take in order for you to make it to 20 years in business. And I can say that because, thank God, March this year will be 20 years I've been in business. So I know what I'm talking about. I've eaten all of my own dog food. I am not telling anybody to do something I have not done. So that's it. That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Well, I want to get to, I do want to get to the workbook, but before I get into that, what are over the years, what are some of the, whether it's books or courses or people that have inspired these, these thoughts, and what went into the book? Because to me, and I definitely want to read the book now. To me, a lot of these lessons I've had to learn, right, where I have an element of it, I learned in this book, or an element from this coach, or an element here. It seems like this is a lot more comprehensive. So how did you, what inspired you? What are some of the mediums that you've learned from in order to create this very valuable content?
Well, I am a voracious reader, and I have read a lot of people's books. And I would say the book that had the most impact on me, like very early on in my business, was actually The E-Myth by Michael Gerber.
Yep.
Probably one of the most important business books I've ever read.
Yep.
I would say at a time in my life when I had to kind of regroup and reinvent my business, Barry Moltz wrote this book years ago called Bounce. And it was—
Who's the author again?
Barry Moltz, M-O-L-T-Z.
Mm-hmm.
He wrote this great book called Bounce. And his book was about a business that he created that failed, and how he reinvented himself in a new business from it. And it's so funny because I read that book probably 7-8 years before I actually met Barry Moltz. And when I met him, I was able to tell him how, his book talked me off the ledge one night, you know what I mean? And he was like, "Are you serious?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah." And it's great because he now has become a very good friend of mine.
Oh, good.
And so his book really had a great impact on me. I tell you, another book that really affected me early on was this book called The 7-Minute Difference by Allison Lewis. And in her book, she talked about how we have all these never-ending to-do lists, and how we make ourselves crazy and we don't feel like we accomplish anything. And she taught the 5 before 11 rule in her book. And she said every day any business owner should not focus on more than 5 key tasks. And you should try to get them done before 11 a.m. every day. And I have adopted that, and I teach that, because what she said was, when you set up your 5 priorities the day before, and you start your day on your priorities, not looking at email, not answering a voicemail, but on your 5 priorities, you get what you want to get accomplished done every day. Mm-hmm. And then anything else you get done after 11 a.m. is gravy, is a bonus. But if your top 5 gets done, you will move business forward every day.
Yeah, we do something really similar, and these are just these practical, simple things that make massive differences. But if you start to prioritize the day before you leave, it simmers, right? Even though you may not be actively thinking about it, it simmers. And when you wake up in the morning, you kind of already have a game plan instead of setting your priorities then and then figuring out the game plan.
Absolutely. And that is such an amazing thing to do. And it changed my life, because I was one of these people that I felt deflated every day. Like, oh God, I got so much to do. I could stay up till 5 o'clock in the morning. It's like, no, I got my 5 done. I get my 5 done. I'm good, because I'm superhuman anyway. So I'm gonna get stuff done. But if I prioritize, and one of the things she talked about was making the hardest thing the first thing. Tackle, if you're a morning person, make your hardest thing the first thing.
For sure.
Really can focus in on that. And I would say the most recent book that I read that had an incredible impact on me was Profit First by Mike Michalowicz. And he just really talked about how we should prioritize money differently in a business. And it's funny because he's actually a college classmate of mine. I've known Mike for a really, really long time.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. But it's just so funny that both of us are small business experts. But he wrote a great book. And, I teach it. I give it to people because it's a great book. And it's a
simple concept too. Very simple, very easy to execute too.
Yeah, so I would say, I can keep going, but those are my top 4.
Well, maybe let's do this. So one more thing I'd love to hear from you is, who are some of the iconic business leaders that you look to today for inspiration? I guess it could be the past too, but who do you look for inspiration, and maybe a business or two that would be recognizable by listeners as a business that really embodies some of the things that you teach in the book?
My number one business icon is still the first business icon I ever had, and the woman that inspired me to become an entrepreneur in the first place. And actually, that is Oprah Winfrey. When I was in college, Oprah Winfrey became prominent with Harpo Studios. And literally, she was the first journalist I ever saw start a business, because I was a journalism major undergrad in school. I didn't work in the business school the whole 4 years I was in college. I don't know why, but anyway, so literally, she was my first business icon, and she still is. Like, that chick is amazing, right? So she keeps innovating. She keeps doing cool stuff, and she keeps giving to so many people. And, and it's so funny because, Oprah inspires so many people for so many reasons. Oprah inspired me because she is a gangster businesswoman. Like, I love her. I always have.
She runs an empire, and it's, you understand business at a level that most don't, but to see the difference you can make and how one person essentially is at the helm of that. I mean, man, talk about what she knows and how she understands people and putting people in the right places, and everything that you've outlined in your book, probably to the nth degree, she understands those. It's, part of her makeup.
Absolutely. And the one thing that Oprah has always been really brilliant at is her team. She's always had an amazing team around her from the very beginning. And that is what has made all the difference in her business. And she's had some losses, she's made some mistakes, but she recovers. And what I love about her, she's transparent about making mistakes. Like, she doesn't hide, talk to my publicist. No, she'll do an interview talking about a mistake, so I love that even somebody at her level that has every resource you could possibly imagine, she still makes mistakes. She still has to reinvent. When she first launched OWN bombed at first. She had to completely reinvent that thing. But now it's amazing. So my point is that I love people who show transparently that they can still grow. If you feel like you already know everything about business, good luck with that.
That's a red flag.
Yeah, good luck with that attitude, because that's how you're going to turn into a taxi driver that gets wiped out by Uber. Stuff, that kind of, that kind of stuff people don't need. So that, I just think that, she's amazing. She's my Shiro. Love her.
Shiro, I love that.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Well, cool. Well, talk to us about how we can stay in touch with you and how we can learn more about not just the book, but the study guide that you are in the process of creating, as well as your course and maybe your event too. What are the best ways?
So my website is succeedasyournboss.com. If you can't remember that, just Google Small Biz Lady and you will find me.
We'll put it in the notes too.
Yeah, and I'm Small Biz Lady on Twitter and Facebook. I am Melinda Emerson on LinkedIn. Those, if you want to go find me on LinkedIn, I actually get my name over there. And I'm really excited to talk about my Small Biz Lady intensive event, Tampa, Martin Luther King weekend, Tampa, Florida. I'm going to be doing a 3-day boot camp on how to fix your business. I'm going to teach 12 hours of instruction, all these P's I just talked about. I'm going to go in depth. I'm going to go in. I'm teaching till 11 o'clock at night. I'm not going to stop teaching until you guys say when. Do you go get your pajamas? You can come back. I don't care. I'm going to keep talking because I want people to get this. And if you go to succeedasyournboss.com, you can click on the link and we have it there on our homepage so you can find out more. We're only letting 50 people come, so it's going to go quick. But I am really excited, and I've got Barry Mose, Ojinga Carr, and Alice Hyman coming. They're going to teach people, profit, and prospecting and get that sales process tightened up. So I am so excited about that. So, and I got a workbook for Fix Your Business coming out too. So stay tuned for that. So, because I'm going to help you fix your business.
Melinda, it was awesome to have you on. You have an incredible energy. And so thanks for sharing that with us. And I'm picking up your book for sure. And we'll put the link to that in the show notes, as well as your social media and your website. And I wish you the best and wish you all the success in the world. Thanks for what you do.
Thank you so much, Patrick, for having me. This has been a blast.
Thank you for joining us as the Wealth Standard Podcast spends all of 2018 celebrating life, liberty, and property. Be sure to leave us a review on iTunes, and we'll see you on the next one.